Welcome into Hockey Sense. What's going on, everybody? It is late July, so when I say what is going on, that means nothing's going on. But we always have something going on here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. I'm Andy Strickland. We are at the Half Coast Studios. We've got our new sign up here from Blue Note Roofing as well, so lots of great stuff happening. And I'm excited about the guest that's coming in for this particular week here on Hockey Sense. Davis Payne, now the assistant coach of the Winnipeg Jets, and I want to get into some stuff with Davis. Maybe that he saw during the first-round matchup between the Blues and the Jets just a few months ago in April. But, also he was a head coach of the Blues. Don't forget that he took over for Andy Murray and then eventually was let go and replaced by Ken Hitchcock. I'll never forget that when Davis Payne was let go. He actually stopped by my house, I think the day or maybe the next day after he got let go. I always liked Davis. He's a very smart coach, very detailed coach, had a lot of success coaching before he even became head coach of the Blues. I think he won a championship in the East Coast League when they were a St. Louis Blues affiliate, did a good job with the team down in the minors. And I believe he was hired by Larry Plow, and then Doug Armstrong may have extended him right when Army took over as general manager. Army was already in the organization, but he wasn't serving as the GM at the time. Larry Plow hired him. And obviously it didn't last very long, but, I think he had a winning record at the time that he was let go. And, he was kind of part of the revolution of, that next wave of Blues prospects that were all coming in around the same time. Kind of, I call it that Eric Johnson era, the TJ Oshie era. You look at it, when he took over the Blues, 23-15 his first year, and then 38-33 his second year. So he took over midseason his first year, was only head coach for one full season. And then his third year with the team, he got replaced just 13 games in. They were 6-7, one game under 500. So we'll kind of reflect on some of that. But, you look at the teams that he was coaching. Andy McDonald was leading the team in scoring. You had the David Backes era really getting going. Steen, Perron, Correa, Brad Boys. And I'd love to hear in the comments what your favorite era of Blues hockey ever. What's your favorite era of Blues hockey? You can go all the way back to the Plager brothers and Gary Unger and Red Berenson and Dan Kelly behind the microphone. You can get into Bernie Federko and Brian Sutter and Wayne Babbage and Rob Ramage and Doug Gilmour and all those guys. And then you can take it to the Hall and Oates era, which we all remember so well, with Brett Hall and Adam Oates and, Al McInnes and Chris Pronger and Wayne Gretzky kind of coming into the fold shortly after that. Great era of Blues hockey. And then, kind of into the Eric Johnson, David Perron, TJ Oshie, Patrick Berglund era, which then took us into the Ryan O'Reilly era. And they won a cup. And now we're into the Kyrou and Thomas era. It's just amazing. When you go from one decade to the next, or look at the organization every 7 or 8 years, how it changes and how consistent the Blues have pretty much been. Now, there were a number of seasons there where they didn't make the play. I shouldn't even say a number of seasons, a couple of seasons, a handful of seasons where they didn't make the playoffs. When Eric Johnson was coming in, when they had the first overall pick, when you were changing ownership and going from, Bill and Nancy Laurie to Dave Checketts, who brought in John Davidson. And I'll always remember reporting that John Davidson was going to come in and leave the New York Rangers broadcast booth and become the president of the St. Louis Blues. And I started talking to JD prior to the sale being completed and to him formally being introduced as the president of the team. But, he kind of made it clear, this is kind of in the works, even though he denied it early on. A lot of the New York media, vehemently denied it, said there's no chance he would ever leave. But as crazy as that time was, when Dave Checketts purchased the team and you had Mike McCarthy here, and there's a lot of good people. And I truly enjoyed covering that era of Blues hockey. I really did. There was constant breaking news happening. It was a complete turnover in the Blues organization. Tom Stillman was brought on board as a minority owner at the time. So he was already, you know, involved in the organization. But that's when you started renovating the Stiefel Theater. Um, they changed the uniforms a couple of times. They always had some different marketing ideas. They were really trying to push the team, and JD was great in doing that. And so I like going down memory road and memory lane, I should say. And Davis Payne is a part of Blues history, being a head coach, albeit for a very short time. But when you look at Davis Payne and his career, um, after he left St. Louis and all the success that he's had, and how he's still considered a very good coach, he's probably one of the top assistant coaches in the league today. Went to LA, won some Stanley Cups under Daryl Sutter. I believe he won at least one. Maybe he won two. I'll have to one second, look it up right here. Let's see. So he didn't win the first one. He was fired that year. The first year the Kings won the cup, but he was on their 2013-2014 team. So he was with LA for a while, and then he moves on and he goes to Buffalo and he goes to Ottawa. And in Ottawa, he had a great relationship with DJ Smith, who was the head coach there. And they were kind of part of a up-and-coming young team, that next wave of a rebuild, that transition as an organization with Brady Tkachuk at the helm. Kind of similar to what the Blues went through. And they had Stützle, obviously, and a lot of other, young players who were coming into the organization at the time. And then last year he was in Winnipeg, working under Scott Arniel, and obviously, winning a division and working with one of the top teams and one of the top goaltenders in the league. So I want to get his take on a few things and just kind of talk some hockey with Davis Payne. I've always kept in touch with Davis, always had a lot of respect for Davis. And this guy will coach in the NHL as long as he wants to. So looking forward to that conversation coming up. I hope you do too. But what was your favorite era of Blues hockey? There's no wrong answer here because they've all been great. And I've been covering the team now since 99-2000. That was my first year of being around and coming around. And I would say from a start to finish, first day of training camp to the last day before the team got eliminated, it was probably that next season, 2000-2001, that I started coming around every single day. And it started before that. In 99-2000, I was coming around all the time. But I was working at KMOX at the time, and you kind of had to go where they assigned you to go. But I made as many practices as I could and covered all 7 games of that first-round exit to San Jose, which we all remember, and we'll never forget that one. So, I've seen a lot of the different eras. I mean, that was obviously right in the heart of the Chris Pronger, Al MacInnis, Pavel Demitra era. Keith Tkachuk and Dougie Weight come shortly after that. You had Jamal Mayers, who joins us here just about every week. He's going to be back with us next week. Bryce Salvador, Brad Boyce, Carlo Koliakovo. I mean, all these guys that were on these teams. So it's just kind of fascinating when you look at it like that and just kind of go through the history of the Blues organization. But I love this era too. And I think this team, particularly this season, they have a chance to, I think, finish in the top 3 in the division. I think the bar has been raised. And certainly an opportunity to win a playoff round. And if you win one playoff round, then that means you can certainly win 2 playoff rounds. And who knows what happens if you're able to get out of the first round. Anything is possible. But I think this team is certainly good enough to do that. I think we're going to find out this season. We'll get some answers, right? But how far are the Kyrou, Robert Thomas, Colton Parayko, Cam Fowler, Justin Falk, how far are those guys capable of taking the St. Louis Blues? Can Robert Thomas do what Ryan O'Reilly did? Can he take this team to a Stanley Cup? and ultimately become a top 5 center in the National Hockey League. He's not far off right now. But can he increase his point total? He's going to have to stay healthy, obviously. But can he get to that 90 points? Can he flirt with 100 points? Can Kyrou flirt with 85? Can the power play be consistently in the top 10 for the season? I think they were down the stretch after the Four Nations last year. But is that who the Blues are? The team that we saw after the Four Nations last season until the conclusion of the regular season, where they were truly one of the best teams in the NHL. It wasn't a fluke. It was a big sample size. So I think with the players I just mentioned, and I got to throw in Braden Shen, obviously, who's the captain of the team. That's my bad for not saying his name even first. But Shen was part of the previous Stanley Cup winning team. So I think he's shown that he can be a guy that can be an impact player that helps a team win a cup. Parayko has proven he can be that guy. Bennington has proven he can be that guy. But what kind of impact can Robert Thomas and Kyrou and these guys have now moving forward? Holloway, Broberg, all these guys. Come playoff time. And not just in the regular season, but in terms of the true definition of leadership and leading the team on the ice. Big shout out to Robbie, who's getting married this weekend. Congratulations to him. Matthew Tkachuk got married last weekend, had his cup party on Monday, and I was disappointed I wasn't able to go. I was on vacation last week in San Diego. Had a great time down in San Diego. Considered leaving the vacation one day early to come back to the cup party, which was cup party last year. It was a lot of fun, but, it was tough to miss it. And Matthew's going to be with Cam and I on the Cam and Strick podcast coming up in the next few weeks or so. So looking forward to that, as always, man, with the Cam and Strick podcast. We'll get to Davis Payne coming up in a couple of minutes. And again, looking forward to that conversation coming up with Davis. We'll have some fun with him. All right, Davis Payne on the Cam and Strick podcast, brought to you by First Community. FirstCommunity.com. You can check out their website. Hot rates, man. We got to stick with the hot rates because it's so hot in St. Louis. And First Community, they always have hot rates, but they've got some real hot rates this summer too. So if you got some money sitting around, don't we all have money just sitting around? I think you might have some. Who knows? Somebody's just in a savings account somewhere. Maybe it's in a cookie jar. You got to invest it. You got to be smart with your money, and you can do that with as little as $500 to open up a certificate of deposit and earn a really competitive rate. And unlike a lot of these high-risk investments that you see, your money is totally safe because it's guaranteed. And you can't say that about a lot of these other investments that you're making or that are floating out there and different banks are floating out there. So if you don't want to tie up your money at all, you should consider a money management account. No service charge each month, which is huge. And the more you invest, the higher the rate. So your money is completely accessible to you. If you ever need to withdraw money, it's always available. It's right there. So whatever you do something with your money that makes sense. Make it work for you. Keep it safe. And the team at First Community is there to help you figure out what's best for you. First Community. Blue Note Roofing, I got this new sign. David Novak, I saw him last week, and he gave me the sign. And so we put it up there, 314-920-5713. I tell you what the phone number is all the time. And I tell you, right, insurance claims specialists, right, hail and wind damage, roofings, siding, gutters, soffit, fascia, whatever it is you're looking for, he can help you. Blue Note Roofing. Look for the big yellow truck with that Blue Note Roofing sign on it, 314-920-5713. Blue Note Roofing, baby. Always love having David Novak being a part of the show. We'll get him back here in studio very soon as well. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Listen, now's the time to get over there. If you're having backyard barbecues maybe coming up, back-to-school parties, birthday parties, anniversaries, anything that's going to require you to entertain at your house, do not sleep on Dirt Cheap. They've got the party supplies you're looking for, paper goods, decorations. They've got the best selection of beer, wine, and booze you'll find anywhere. Unbelievable selection. Today is a good day to be hanging out inside that beer cooler. People say, well, where's Stricky? We can't find Stricky today. Well, he's hanging out inside the beer cooler. Once again, man, and not because I'm just looking to drink all the beer. It's just because it's so nice and cool inside there. But they do have the coldest beer in town at Dirt Cheap. So check that out. So many of the locations offer curbside pickup. They have drive-throughs. Some of the locations have drive-throughs. So check that out as well. But again, the best selection of beer, wine, and booze. They have discounts on Blues game nights as well during the regular season. That schedule's come out. What do you think of the schedule? Starting October 9th at home against Minnesota, then they hit the road, I think, for 2. I want to say Calgary and Detroit before they come back home for like a 4-game homestand or something. So looking forward to being on the road this season. You know, it's been a while since I've been on the road with the Blues. I mean, the odd game here and there, certainly during the playoffs and whatnot. But, you know, it's been a while since I've traveled with the team for a complete season, and I really can't wait to get going. I'm really excited. It's kind of invigorated me a little bit. Not that things were getting stale, because they don't ever get stale when it comes to covering hockey and, you know, being around the National Hockey League. I mean, it truly is a privilege. It's unbelievable. But knowing that this season's going to be new, it's going to be different. Some different things that I'll be doing, hosting pre and post and intermissions on the road, something that I haven't done previously under the previous regime. I can't. I'm thankful for the opportunity, number one, but I'm so excited to get going at the same time, and it's going to be a great season. Looking forward to it, and the team's going to be good. So again, we look forward to this coming season. There's no doubt. But Blue Note Roofing, Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Of course, our friends over at First Community. Lordo's Diamonds. Get that special someone, something special in your life over at Lordo's Diamonds. Hey, it's a perfect time to pop the question. Pop it. Pop the question. Get in there and say hi to Mike and Jimmy. And let them help you. If you walk in there with a $500 budget or a $500,000 budget, they're going to treat you exactly the same. Nobody does engagement rings. Nobody does jewelry better than our friends over there at Lordo's Diamonds. Say hi to Pat and everybody else. LordosDiamonds.com, baby. Right there in the heart of Ladue. 314-432-8008. 314-432-8008. Right next to Truffles in the heart of Ladue. All right, we'll come back with Davis Payne and lots of other stuff to get to on this edition of Hockey Sense. I'm Andy Strickland. It's a hot one outside. Stay cool. Hang out inside. Enjoy watching. We're on YouTube. You can listen to the podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find Hockey Sense with Andy Strickland. Brought to you by First Community. We got Aiden in the house. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere. I was telling our listeners, man, you've had an unbelievable coaching career, and you're still doing it to this day. You're with a really good team. So is it similar as a player when you go from one organization to the next? Does it take longer as a coach than it would for a player to kind of integrate yourself with the community, the city, the organization? Or is coaching is coaching and you just kind of pick up and you land in the next spot and it's the same routine?
When you move, like, there's lots of different elements to that question you asked. Like when you're asking, like, integrating to the city, I assume as a player, you integrate a little bit faster in your neighborhood with, you know, your teammates are there, fans probably, you know, when you go into a new city as a coach, like nobody even really cares, like, until you win or lose, who the coach is. And so the integration part there for a coach is actually quite simple. I mean, you get inside the rink and you go to work, and not a lot changes because of the hours you put in. So, I mean, I've felt it to be really quite easy, just simply because you walk into work and you've got 23 new faces. You got a new staff that everybody's quickly going to work together with, and I don't know. It just seems sort of what we do. You have to not. Nobody stays anywhere for longer than 2.5 years now.
I know. You just kind of have to know that, I guess. As a coach, you kind of know that going in, so it's no longer a shock, right? I mean, it's just the way the industry has gone. It's unfortunate. I don't love seeing that, to be honest with you, but you just kind of have to accept that as a coach, or you just don't think about it, I guess.
Well, you have to. You have to accept it if you want to do your job sort of freed up and able to, not coach or prepare or do anything with fear of being fired the next day, like that's just a miserable thought to have doing any type of job, I would think. Um, when you're unburdened by the fact that you have a contract, or financially you're fine, and you've done some winning, then you're a little bit more apt to just sort of follow your gut, trust your instincts, instead of looking over your shoulder and say, hey, will this decision or this move get me fired again? I mean, you have to, it's a crazy thing, because you have to sort of put it in the back of your mind, but at the same time, you look at it, and some of the deals, the raw deals that some guys are getting hit with these days, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it just seems like certain organizations stick with it a little longer. And I'm not just talking hockey, I'm talking
Sure.
all of pro sports.
Yeah.
Um, like you look at the ones, the continuity is an asset, and some that don't treat it as such sometimes miss the boat a little bit, I think.
All right, so you go from one coach to the next. I mean, you've coached with Daryl Sutter, you've coached with different coaches, obviously DJ Smith for a long time. So you create those relationships. Now Scotty Arneal, when you're an associate head coach or an assistant coach, do you just step in and you do what you do, or do you have to adapt to how the head coach wants you to coach or what they're asking of you? I mean, how much adjustment is there as an assistant?
Uh, well, you first off, you've been hired to bring your thoughts and ideas and how you do things to the table. And so there's those discussions. You want to continue to be yourself and do the things that you sold um, as you were getting the job. At the same time, when you start getting into the day-to-day routine, especially on game days, getting an understanding how the coach likes to handle different situations, that's where you got to sort of back off and sort of pay attention to what is the head guy like to do when the what hits the fan.
Yeah.
How is he going to react when a certain player needs a pat on the back, or a certain player needs a real hard push, and or whether the team needs it, or you got to sort of go through a feeling out period with your head guy, because that's his role. That's not going to be your role. That's you're sort of there to pick up the pieces once he's done his thing.
All right, so I got to ask you this, going back to the playoffs this past year. What did you guys see that you could take advantage of? Was there anything specific when the Blues pulled their goalie in Game 7? You guys score a couple of goals, obviously late, to force overtime, end up winning it in overtime and advancing to the next round. But that was kind of like I don't want to call it an issue, but it was it happened kind of multiple times over the course of the year for the Blues. Were you guys aware of that? I mean, is that something that you're thinking when they pulled the goalie, we can take advantage of it? Is there anything the Blues did that you guys took advantage of? I'm just curious how you read those specific, that specific circumstance.
You are here we go. Listen to you. You're trying to pull out you guys are still in our division by last time I checked, right?
What'd you see?
You're still in our division.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where you guys might have a lead on us again. You're going to pull your goal. We're going to have to.
Yeah,
pull
but they're
our
making
goal
adjustments
and
in
come back.
St. Louis. They won't allow. They won't give you the same opportunity next time. Now they're
They won't.
adjusting. No.
We'll find it.
Yeah, I know. I know. Hey, but
Everybody, look at everybody's like. Were we aware? I mean, you don't really talk about it going into a playoff series. Hey, this is a team that struggles, 5 versus 6.
yeah.
Like, we don't want to get into those situations. But at the start of every playoffs, we would go through every playoff series. We would go through a detailed special team report. So that special team report would be what St. Louis wants to do: killing penalties, 5-on-4, 5-on-3, 4-on-3. This is what we're going to do when we get in those situations. This is how they defend when they are in a 6-on or a 5-on-6 situation. So we know that our answer to that is a certain type of attack from a certain piece of ice that we feel is difficult to cover with that coverage. Now, lots of times you don't get those opportunities. Like sometimes you can't even get it in the zone. Sometimes you can't even get it off the wall to even talk about how they're covering some things. But it just so happened in this instance that those scenarios we were able to generate possession twice in a crucial moment. And the one that really got us started was the one that Nemestikov scored that went in off. I can't remember if it was Suter's stick or Schen's stick or somebody's stick, but that was the one that obviously really gave us a chance.
I mean, what are you trying to do when you pull the goal? I mean, are you just trying to get pucks to the net, or are there are set plays that I would imagine you're trying to execute, but they may not be available. So it's almost desperation hockey at that point on both sides of the coin. I mean, you got to be desperate when you're trying to finish off the game and you're trying to just get it clear to get the puck out of the zone. But at the same time, when you are the offensive team trying to score, there's desperation involved there too. I mean, how much coaching really goes into that?
Look at you. How much coaching? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say a ton.
Yeah, I would imagine there is. I just mean like in terms of, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to outnumber the opposing team. You got an extra attacker out there, so you're trying to outnumber them, right? And all areas of the ice, wherever the puck is, right?
Right. I mean, teams are going to cover it differently, so you have to understand that first. I mean, there's your first sort of visual or piece of video that you're going to put in front of your players. Ultimately, you have to get the puck to the net.
Sure.
And you can't just say, "Hey, get it to the net." That's like, when 18,000 people are in the building, screaming at the power play, shoot, shoot. Well, there might not be anything to shoot at. There might be a guy with his shin pads in your face that you can't get that puck past. And so that can happen a lot, and even more and even faster 6-on-5. So you have to understand, once you do gain possession 6-on-5, where is the hole based on how they want to cover things. If you're going to play soft up top, then obviously your shooting opportunities are from up top. That's not necessarily how the Blues play it, but I'm just giving you an example. If we're playing a team that's going to play soft at the top of the circles, then we're going to create 3 shooting opportunities, and one of the three guys has to put the puck to the net, and then the desperation and the intensity to win a loose puck occurs at that moment. And so there's sort of an intensity to a plan, to a execution, to an intensity sort of cycle, if you will.
Yeah.
All coaching.
And we'll get away from this series, but I'm just curious, why do you think the home team had such an advantage? I mean, the visiting team, you guys got blown out in St. Louis and then look like a completely different team at home. Like, why do you think that was in that series?
I don't that we've spent a lot of time talking about that. I don't know that, during the regular season, I mean, we had, I think, the best record on the road in the league.
Yeah, you did.
So none of those situations really got to us. But I just think it was sort of one of those cases where it didn't happen in the second round because we had got past that sort of first round mental hurdle of, oh my God, what happens if we don't win this round? And then all of a sudden St. Louis would score, and the building was, both buildings,
crazy.
I like ours in the end, but both atmospheres were like, oh my God, when things got going in St. Louis, it was, you really needed some management of the next shift and the next shift after that, and sort of getting yourself together. And quite honestly, I don't think we managed that very well, and St. Louis did.
You guys were banged up too. I mean, you got Ehlers back, you got Velarde back. Scheifele got hurt though, right? I mean, which really hurts you, right? I mean, he's such a good player, and he's got great chemistry with, the guys that he plays with. So you lose him, you just, there's guys you just can't replace, right? You just create a hole. You can say next man up, but it's just not realistic.
No, it's your best players. Like, if you got a 6-shooter and you got 6 bullets, I mean, you're going to start, you're going to aim at Scheifele, you're going to aim at Hellebuck, you're going to aim at Morrissey, you're going to aim at Ehlers. You know what I mean? It'd be the same. We can pick who we're going to fire the bullets at on St. Louis, and all of a sudden they're not as good a team. I mean, so even though you've got good, responsible, dependable players out there. I mean, that's why these guys are stars. That's why they wear their, you know, they get paid lots too. And it's, it's these are the guys that you'd rather not get hurt. And it's no secret that during the playoffs, those guys get a little extra attention.
Yeah. You've been around great goaltenders in the past. I mean, you spent all those years with Jonathan Quick and whatnot, but Hellebuck wins the Hart Trophy, wins the Vezina as well. Your impressions of him playing against him all those years, and then obviously, being in the same dressing room on the same bench with this guy. What makes him so different?
That's interesting you asked that question because I have had the conversation a few times with some of our players and maybe even some of our coaches and for sure our goalie coach. Playing against him, you knew he was a good goalie. But I made the comment, like we'd come in as a visiting team with Ottawa or whether it was LA or whatever it was. I mean, you just sort of knew, okay, here's a different puzzle. You're only playing him once and then you move on and you don't play him a bunch of times in a row. He had the ability to make some saves that you didn't think he would. And, he's sort of always there and in front of it. He's not necessarily, smooth and acrobatic and athletic. Like he's not, but when I got to sit on the bench and watch this guy play night in, night out, night in, night out, you sort of look at it and he makes these saves where you're like, how did he put a piece of his equipment there? Like, how did he make that read in order to get over there? Like his preparation and his process for reading the game, he doesn't leave a lot. He doesn't leave a lot to chance. And it's really impressive to see him put his focus on making sure, it's a half an inch here. It's a eighth of, you know what I mean? Like it's being on by that little bit is really important to his game and his ability to read the play and just sort of be there with, before you're going there.
Mm-hmm.
It's, some guys would shoot to a spot and he'd already be there waiting, and you just kind of see him come back to the bench. So like, oh, like, how did he make that save? Well, the bigger question is, how did he know you were shooting there? And he does it so often. And the other thing that really, Jonathan Quick was a very, very intense guy. Hellebuck is intense, but he's a guy you can have a conversation with. He comes to the bench. He's like, everything is so steady, even keel with him. You see different emotional levels from different guys and what their best game looks like. His is a calm level that I never really understood.
Yeah, no, I like your team. I mean, Pionk on the back end. Morrissey, I think he got hurt like game 7. He might have even got hurt before that, but he took a hit, I remember, behind the net in game 7, I believe. He wasn't the same. Might have been the previous game, who I can't even remember. But Kyle Connor he's one of my favorite players to watch in the game. I'm curious, as a coaching staff, what you guys were saying when he didn't play in the championship game of the Four Nations. I mean, were you guys like, what is going on here? Or, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he is so good. I remember watching him play for Bell Tire back in the day when he was playing youth hockey out of Detroit. This guy, and I saw him playing the USHL in Youngstown. This guy is so good. And to see it translate to the NHL, is he as quiet as I think he is?
Quieter.
Doesn't say anything, huh?
Nothing. You could have this conversation. You could have a conversation with him, and you better be able to carry it, because it's just going to be a one-word answer. You got to drag it out of him. But he's just, I didn't know he was as good as he is. I really didn't. And he, at the start of the year, it wasn't just his play with the puck and shooting the puck and scoring. Like, this guy, he was tracking people into the ground. He was pressuring people defensively. Like, he earned his way onto that Four Nations team. And I don't make the roster decisions. We're not in there, so we all get to sit back and criticize him and think we're experts. I would have had him in the lineup because, I mean, it was a 1-goal game, right?
Right.
And I think he was. I don't know who had more goals than him going into the tournament, but he was up there.
Well, especially for American-born players, right? So he and Shifley are so good together, man. And I can say that, like, as a hockey fan too. Like I just, even covering that series, I just appreciate world class players, and he's one of them. So, um, getting fired by the Blues, like, do you even remember that? Like getting hired by the Blues and then being let go. Like, I'm just curious how that sets you up for the rest of your career. You were such a young coach at the time. You had success winning in Alaska and all that. You're in the minors in the Blues organization, and before you know it, all of a sudden you're behind the bench in the NHL as the head coach. Were you ready for it at that time? And how do you reflect on that opportunity that you had, Davis, early in your coaching career?
Uh, do I remember getting fired? Yes.
It came out. It was
So,
early in the
do you remember
season.
your first? You always remember your first
Yeah,
of anything.
yeah.
Um,
But
no,
have you ever been fired? You ever been fired in
I
midseason?
had not been fired from anything.
I was gonna say.
I got taken off. I maybe call it. I was working at a fishing lodge, and I worked a shift in the dining room, and I got through 2 tables before I got sent back to the maintenance shed. So I think I maybe got fired as a waiter.
Yeah, we all have.
But um, anyway, was I ready? If I'm honest with myself, I was not ready. Um, I had not spent enough time in the National Hockey League as a player.
Mhm.
Um, I think I was ready from a coaching X and O mode, that type of readiness. I think I had all that handled. But what you fail to realize is the relationships that go on with your players in the National Hockey League are different than at any other level of hockey. And to understand how important those relationships are, it takes a long time. And it takes, now I understand what it means to be dealing with a guy who's a UFA. What is it like to be dealing with a guy who's going to be an RFA and got arbitration rights, or just signed a 7-year contract, or just has a kid, or just got traded, or like these are all people questions,
Mhm.
and they're dealing with your decisions that affect their playing time, which affects their stats, which affects their next contract, and you don't know their agent calling them at night, their dad calling them at night, like putting pressure on them, not putting, like, you don't know what these guys are dealing with until you have the conversations. And so, the other thing is you don't understand just how taxing the schedule is in the National Hockey League. It's not like that in the East Coast League. It's not like that in the American League. Like, you have to figure out how to get your team, up and ready for the next game in a 12-minute practice. And people may hear that and think that that's crazy, but when the schedule gets heavy, and it'll be it'll be that and then some this year. But my first year was also the last time, the Olympic year in 2010. The schedule was horrendous, and so trying to figure out, how do we get the team back on the rails in some portion of their game with very little time. It was, I didn't have that. Plus, then you're dealing with media, and that is a whole big, massive thing that you don't deal with.
Mhm.
How to deal with it, how to not deal with it, how to ignore it, how to, whatever it is. I mean, there's an experience level there that now that I've been through it, I'd be more than happy to have another crack at it.
Yeah, and I think you'll get that, and I think you were great with the media, I will say that. Even when you came here to St. Louis, that was never an issue. Um, and it's interesting the time when you came here, where the Blues were at. They'd just gotten through that kinda transition period. They missed the playoffs a couple years. You had a lot of young guys who were really kinda coming into their own. Who stands out from the guys that you coached here that maybe you would even reference to other players when you moved on from here? Like, anybody really stand out to you that you enjoyed working with, that really impressed you? Or whether it was a Petro or a Steiner, Backus, whoever.
Yeah, you start with those. Well, first of all, those two guys, Steiner and David Backus, both guys were great pros and great people. Um, Gave you everything, didn't question, were really, really, really good soldiers, for your room, for your bench on the ice. You could tell that there's going to be some success with that group when you have those type of guys in there. They're just really super guys, and every chance I get to run into them, say hello. I always look forward to those conversations. You talk about the versatility of both those guys. You talk about, David moving from a wing to a center to, and Steiner being able to play different positions. I've certainly referenced that over the years. There's a couple of traits, like Alex Pietrangelo as a young player. He was so impressive in the fact that when I talk with players about this, that when you asked them to do something, it was literally like you'd put the memory stick into your computer and all of a sudden it was there. It was onto the computer. You never had to ask it again. You never had to teach it again. It was plug and play. And I talk to players and say, listen, if this is the stuff, if it doesn't stick, then we've got to keep looking at it, keep working at it till we get to the point where it is a one time and this is an immediate reaction. I talk often to young players about the tenacity of a TJ Oshie and TJ's ability to impact the game without the puck is something that I remember. We went into Calgary. We were on the road and in Calgary, and Calgary was a really good team that year. And I don't know who got hurt. Could have been David. It could have been one of our centermen, maybe Patrick Berglund or something, but we didn't have enough centermen. And so I had Osh having to play center. And sure enough, they were putting a Ginla out on the ice every single time that Osh came out to play center. And Ginla got nothing done that night. Absolutely nothing done. We won that game 3-1. And Osh should have been the first star. He had 0 goals, 0 assists, probably 0 shots. He had the biggest impact on that hockey game by just his ability to deny other teams' best players the opportunity to impact the game. And I reference that all the time with young players because everybody's looking to skill and all this kind of stuff. And there's way more to the National Hockey League. 90% of your game is played without the puck. And so that becomes a huge aspect. One of the other guys I talk about all the time is David Perron. And I know he's still playing, but his I don't even know what the word is. His never give up, his never stop, his stuff around the net, the way he just is stick to itiveness, the way he just never gives up on a play or a chance around the net or taking on cross checks. Like here's a guy who would be in practice, he'd be fighting for a rebound with the goaltender, and I'd be expecting the drill to be starting the other end. And next thing you know, we're coming down and David Perron is still wrestling with the goaltender and trying to put this puck in the net. And it's interrupting the timing of the drill. It would drive me mad, but at the same time, it's exactly how you want your players to play around the net. And so there's an adjustment there that I say, you want this behavior. I mean, David was just, he was relentless with it. And if every young player coming into the league could be relentless all the time, practice and game around the net, I think they'd score more goals. So I reference that as well.
I'm sure Yarrow Halak loved that. But, but Perron, one of my favorite players in the league, I mean, the fact that he's still going, and, Oshie, these guys are all Stanley Cup winners. You know what I mean? And they all played over 1,000 games. It's just amazing to see these kids come in at such a young age and then have the career that they had. And same goes with Backus and all these other guys that you had there too. So, Ryan Reeves has played over 900 games in the league. I mean, it's just amazing where these guys were at. Ian Cole, I mean, he's a multiple Stanley Cup winner. There's a lot of guys on that team who went on to have great careers. Barrett Jackman was a great pro. So, you had a good group. It was an I was saying before you came on, I love that era of Blues hockey. You weren't cup contenders at the time, but you had so many promising players who you knew were going to end up having great careers who could really play the game. That it was entertaining every single night. It was entertaining. You guys were always entertaining,
No, some of that, you'd have success with that, and sometimes you'd have mistakes, and some of those mistakes would cost you games. I mean, I think when we go back to the question about, coaches getting fired and all that kind of stuff. Like I firmly believe that when you look at the stages of a team, it's like a coach brings a team to a stage, and then if it doesn't transition immediately, they get another coach to take it through the next stage. And we had massive number of really good, young, growing, talented players that were growing together and learning how to figure some things out. We had some veteran guys in there that sort of were at the end, and so there was a little bit of a balance there that was sort of, some nights on, some nights off. The team was being sold. There's a lot of sort of, you go into those situations that don't speak of stability. There's going to be change, and that's just how it operates. I mean, a rebuild leads to players growing up and getting better, and a new coach coming in and taking the next stage. And then maybe there's another coach who puts them over the edge. But could it have been the same guy? I don't know. Don't
Yeah.
don't often get to find out.
No. You've coached so many great players and obviously winning a Stanley Cup in LA, and I'll get to that here in just a second. But even in Buffalo, I mean, you had Eichel there, you had Sam Reinhart there, you had Ryan O'Reilly there. I mean, these guys, you talk about all three guys have gone on to win Stanley Cups. All three guys became superstars in the National Hockey League. Like, you got to feel fortunate to work with some of these guys, right? I mean, even in Buffalo, like I'm surprised. Some organizations they can't keep anybody, right? They let some of these guys go, and for whatever reason, it is what it is. You don't have to get into that. But of all those guys in Buffalo, like, who stands out to you? That are you surprised by any of these guys? I mean, Eichel obviously was a high pick, and same with Reinhardt. But were you surprised any of these guys out of Buffalo have gone on to become who they are?
No, no, not really. I mean, they were all they are extremely talented players. Um, and at the same time, players go through different stages in their career. Like they come into the league learning how to play in the league, then they learn how to be a player in the league, and then they learn the last stage is learn how to win in the league. And there's a different mindset and a different sort of moments in there. You come in as a young player, and yeah, you're going to listen to the coach, but you come in with a belief system of how your success comes, and then all of a sudden the league figures you out a little bit, and then you got to sort of adjust, and then comes the final sort of piece. Are you willing to give up a little bit in order for your team to have a real chance at winning? And I think there's sort of stages along the line. Jack Eichel is just incredibly athletically gifted. Like, it's spooky to see this guy move around the ice. Like, and to shoot the puck and the power that he can generate. And yet at the same time, Sam Reinhart, when we first had him, like, he was just putting his frame together. Like, he was doing the work. Like, he would come back each summer. It was like, okay, like, he looks even better and even stronger. And now, the third year, even better, even bigger, even stronger. Now a little bit faster. Now he's shooting the puck. Now he's getting comfortable on the inside. Now he's making the adjustment to be an inside player. Now he's made the adjustment to go the full gamut. Now he's killing penalties. Now he's your full Selke conversation type player. And so there's stuff doesn't happen overnight. There's an evolution going on there that, these guys develop and at different speeds. They develop different skills at different times, and then they sort of accept perhaps a little bit of a pullback or a little bit of a change in how they're going to play to have a chance at winning. I don't know how many shots Sam blocked in Buffalo, killing penalties, but I know he's trying to get in front of every single one of them in Florida.
He sure is.
And that's a commitment.
Yeah.
And good on him.
Was Montour there with you or no?
Yep. We
Oh.
traded for him. No, we had a talented team. I mean, we just sort of had little different pieces in there that the ingredients weren't something in the cake didn't rise right.
So when you're on a championship team, what separates those teams from the others? Because obviously being in LA and working with Daryl Sutter, I mean, those teams were really impressive. And you were on the 2014 team, the second cup, so it's not like you were like this team that snuck up on everybody like the 2012 team did, who were the 8th seed, and just kind of steamrolled through the playoffs. I mean, they were up 3-0, I think, on everybody, I felt like, that year in their playoff series. 2014, an established championship team, a great team. What separates the great teams, you think, from others?
Well, that's sort of the 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 magic question, I guess. But when you have when you have your leadership core all bought into the identity of your team,
Mm.
and that leadership core reaches out and sort of encompasses everybody else through different relationships and different conversations, and you start to, you start with that tight circle, and it sort of envelops and brings everybody else in. When your leadership core, and your leadership core is not always your best players, when your leadership core is driving the identity of your team and everybody else uh, is committed to that and believes in that, it's it's priceless. I mean, then it comes down to the small percentages, but um, teams that don't have that, you can beat, and that's just it was every single guy in our room believed how the LA Kings were going to play hockey and how we were going to beat you and how we were going to play against you, and everybody believed in it, and everybody knew that this is how we did things and we don't stray, and nobody changes, how we do things. And when everybody is committed to that, um really special things can happen. And I think you saw it. I mean, you look at Florida, every single guy is committed to that. And I don't know the inner workings of their team. You can certainly see some of their leadership guys are their best players, but it doesn't have to be that way. It just has to be the driving force um, behind everybody's belief.
Yeah.
It is sort of the right action, and it takes time for that to sort of evolve itself, and it takes time for it to be just completely second nature. Like there's no thinking behind it whatsoever. Our team in Winnipeg is a lot like that. Now we've still got some hurdles to get over, but I think our identity players and our top end players are very close in line with how we need to play. Um, we were 2 rounds short, 3 rounds short last year, but I think we're very close, and I think we're getting closer.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any doubt. And again, in LA, you had the Drew Doughtys and Kopitar, and Taves is almost a comparison for Kopitar, just because of their winning pedigree. And Shifley has a lot of characteristics that those guys share. He hasn't won the Stanley Cups that they have, but just in terms of how he impacts the game, and I think how he leads and his personality and some of that. Are you excited to work with Taves? Have you had a chance to see him skate yet, or no?
I am excited to work with him. I have not seen him skate yet. I've had a couple conversations with him. Um, no, you got to keep in mind, this is a guy that, for that time that we were in Los Angeles, I mean, it was a Los Angeles, Chicago, Chicago,
Yeah,
Los Angeles.
every other
This was,
year. Yeah.
yeah, it was back and forth for about 6, 7 years there. And so I knew his game very well. I studied his game extremely at length. Um, and now to have him with what he's accomplished enter into our locker room and be engaged to the level that he's already engaged at, willing to do anything. His comment was, "If I got to fill water bottles, I'll do that." I'm just happy. I told him, I think we'll find somebody to do that.
Tell him he's got to do that and see how he reacts.
No, the great thing would be how everybody else reacts.
Yeah.
And that to me is what's really going to be special. I mean, he's been a great player. I think he's completely energized. I think his body feels good. I think his mind is refreshed. He's at home. I think it's a new challenge. I think he's really juiced up by this. But I really feel that it's going to be really interesting to see how everybody else reacts when they see him go through his game, and see how he acts in those situations. You talk about how those games in St. Louis get away from us. Well, we're going to see how, a guy who's won two gold medals, a world junior, a world championship, a Conn Smythe, um, other than North Dakota not winning national title, he's won it all. And
He
so
went to a Frozen Four, though. They played here in St. Louis.
I remember that. It's going to be very impactful, very exciting, very, and he's got a ton of experience. I'm not just coaching him. I'm learning from him. I mean, we do everything together. And so it's going to be awful fun knowing I've already had some conversations with him about the days we banged heads when he was with Chicago, but it's going to be, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, they had some of those here in St. Louis too. I mean, there were playoff series where the Blues were up 2-0 and Toews just I can still see him kind of sneaking behind Roman Polak and scoring a breakaway goal in overtime and and just taking the hearts out of the Blues fans. But and I think Adam Lowry, listen, I think he's one of my favorite captains in the league. I love talking to him. He's a great leader. You can just see it. And talking to his dad too, like you get to see he's come up around it. He's going to be hurt obviously to start the season, but when he gets back, and he's going to benefit from having Johnny Toews there too. So just like
100%,
so
100%. And this is when Adam is a great leader. When the situation was developing that there was a chance we could sign Jonathan, obviously you're going to your leadership group and your players and Adam Lowry to say, hey, what do you think of this? And he was just so excited about what Jonathan would bring to our team first, and then second, what he could learn from Jonathan, how he could make him a better captain, a better leader, a better player. But it was the team first, and then and this is where you've got a guy who pulls everybody in the right direction for your organization.
He didn't offer up the C, did he?
No, I don't think.
I'm joking.
Do you think Jonathan Toews would even want that?
No, he would absolutely not want it. But I remember as a kid, Wayne Gretzky, and we're talking Wayne Gretzky, he gets traded to St. Louis, and Shane Corson gave him the C. I'm trying to think what other captains would do that, but Gretzky's a different animal, and Gretzky probably didn't care. He didn't care for it. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't asking for the C.
Yeah,
but Gretzky's a different animal than anybody.
Yeah, I don't know what situation you'd get into that would. That's an interesting one. I'm sure they thought long and hard about it.
Yeah. Well, Toews, Crosby, I mean, they're from their generation, they're probably considered the two best captains in the National Hockey League from their era. And Kopitar's up there too, man. We can't forget about the West Coast there, Davis.
Kopitar. There was Dustin Brown.
Dustin, I know. It was Dustin. Were you there for that?
Yes.
Were you involved in that decision?
I don't know. Next question.
Okay. We'll save that for the Cam and Strick podcast. We got to get done.
That was, everybody was involved in that decision. It was sort of the evolution of what was sort of the next era. There was nothing.
Wasn't a bad decision. It's proved to be the right decision.
No, it was sort of, okay, we've got to this point. Brownie, great job, did an unbelievable job. It's like, okay, now in order for this to continue, we can't just sit here.
Yeah.
We've got to evolve. And that's how it came.
Yeah. I know. I've talked to Doug Armstrong about this. He did the same thing with Brendan Morrow, took the C from Mike Modano, it's happened before. There's no doubt. So, but that was the right decision. It's proven to be, at least in LA. I'm a big Kopitar guy, so.
No, he's wonderful. Oh, those scenarios, it's the funny thing about it is when in pro sports, you sort of wait too long and then you react. And a lot of the good general managers and coaches and they're proactive in this stuff. I go back to the book and George Seifert Bill Walsh that coached the 49ers. They had their success coming from a last place team, and then 3 years later, I think they won the Super Bowl. And I could be off a little bit, but it was after that where some of these guys wanted these big contracts, and he basically cut some of the guys who've got him there. And these guys hated him for it, but it was like those hard decisions that have to be made. Like, I know St. Louis has gone through some of them with David Backes and Pietrangelo. Those are tough decisions. Are they right, wrong? That's not for me to ultimately make the opinion on, but you got to be proactive in this. Otherwise, you can really spin your tires for some time. And those are the times that really get people sort of caught up on the firing squad.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, listen, all the best to you, Davis. This was fun. I could have gone on for another hour with you and asked you a number of other tough questions, but we'll leave it. We'll have part 2 later on.
All right, buddy.
And all the
I
best in
appreciate
Winnipeg, man.
me.
And congrats on your career. You've had an unbelievable career. I mentioned you won a Stanley Cup, but you're truly one of the top associate coaches, assistant coaches in the game today. And I do think you'll get another opportunity down the road, and I hope you do to become a head coach. So that day will come. Keep doing what you're doing. All right, I hope you enjoyed Davis Payne. His interview actually got pushed back a little bit, so we're doing the close even before we do the interview, so I'm not going to react too much to the interview, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I know we cover a ton of topics. And for Blues fans, like I said before, great opportunity to kind of reminisce and really celebrate the fact that this guy has had a great career and continues to get it done in Winnipeg. So that's where we're at. This is the Stricky Summer Series right now for Hockey Sense. You know, we are in the dead of summer. I mean, it is late July. Not much going on. We're going to have the USA Hockey Summer Showcase taking place over the next several days. We've got the Hlinka Gretzky evaluation camp going on next week as well. Big shout out to George Komodowski, St. Louis kid, who is headed to that camp, hoping to make that team. And also, you know, Shane Van Sage, he joined us last week, second-round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers. He's headed to the USA World Junior Showcase, so hopefully he makes that team. I think he's got a great shot at making it. He should make the team. And, you know, so always give a big shout out to the St. Louis kids. So we will have some hockey. Maybe we'll dive into that next week with some of the USA talk around the World Juniors and whatnot. You know, we didn't dive too much into the rape case out of Canada with 5 NHL players being found not guilty. All of the 5 are acquitted. I did reach out to the league yesterday prior to the league putting out a statement. At least they put out a statement with a couple of other media people. They did one with me as well. They said they're going to review the decision handed down by the judge, do their own investigation, and then eventually the players will be reinstated. But there's no timeline for when they're going to be reinstated. And that's kind of what the league has to do. I don't think you just rush to it right away and be like, they're not guilty, you put them right back into the league. I think they've got to find the proper way to go about handling that. But I think it's only a matter of time before they are reinstated. And we'll see what happens moving forward with, you know, each of the 5 players. I did put out on Twitter asking for people's reaction. This is right when the verdict was coming down. And it was getting reaction from everywhere. And I was just kind of searching and searching. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to put the question out. What's your reaction to the verdict? So I could just kind of see what people's reactions were, kind of gauge the reaction from the hockey community. And it was interesting. You get a few people who are just completely nuts. Just absolutely crazy. They tell you they want you to die for asking the question. I mean, listen, I'm just asking a question. I'm not editorializing. I'm not giving my opinion on it. You know, I don't know exactly what went down. You know, I followed it. I didn't read every single day and go through all the discovery and just, you know, kind of followed it as much as I could. If they're not guilty, I'm glad they were found not guilty. If they were guilty, I would want them to be found guilty. I mean, it's that simple. I don't condone anybody who sexually assaults a woman or a man for that matter. But if you sexually assault somebody, you should pay the price. But if you didn't and you were wrongly accused, then you should be acquitted. And based on the judge's findings, that's what she found in this particular case. So I hope all of these 5 players are able to kind of get back on track, get back to playing hockey, and find a way to land back with an NHL organization. I'll be curious to see how NHL teams react to it. Who's going to be the first team to sign one of these guys? And are certain players, I know a lot of fans are suggesting that the Edmonton Oilers sign goaltender Carter Hart. But are they going to want to be in quieter markets, maybe outside of Canada, to get away from a lot of that publicity that they've been subjected to over the course of the last several months during this whole court and legal proceeding. We'll have more on that coming up next week. Looking forward to that. First Community brings us Hockey Sense with Andy Strickland each and every week, live from Half Coast Studios. That Little Blues program is incredible. Sign your son or daughter up today. You get all the equipment head to toe. Skates, helmet, everything. You want to introduce your son or daughter to the game of ice hockey, this is the best way to do it. You get all the pads. The skates included, like I said. It's an unbelievable program. All sessions take place at the Centene Community Ice Center. I'm headed out there right after this show. They have a graduation ceremony. All the kids get recognized individually. But more importantly, as a parent, you don't have to go to the hockey shop and get all the equipment. And it's a low cost. They get introduced to the sport. And before you decide if you want to commit to hockey, which is expensive and it costs a lot of money, find out if your son or daughter even wants to play. Do they like it? And they may not like it right off the bat. Typically, they fall in love with the game. Little Blues, check out firstcommunity.com today. Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Again, download that app today and get all the deals. They're so good, they call them steals. The Wallace family, man. Nobody does it better than the Wallace family. Taking St. Louis to the next level, one dirt cheap at a time. Don't sleep on the party supplies. Find out which locations offer drive-thrus, curbside pickup. They've got so much going on. Best selection of beer, wine, and booze anywhere is over at Dirt Cheap. How about Frontenac Detailing? Now, listen, my guy Jim Winkleman did unbelievable work detailing my car. I mean, this guy is an absolute miracle worker. So if your car's looking tired, which we all know some of your cars are, bring that new car look back with Frontenac Detailing. It's right inside Honda of Frontenac, right there at Lindbergh and Conway. You can't miss it. And Frontenac Detailing, not necessarily affiliated with Frontenac Honda, but it's located right inside the same facility. So if you have dents, hail damage, torn seats, burn holes, I mean, you may think you have something that is just, you can't repair. Jim can do it all, man. It is absolutely incredible. FrontenacDetailing.com. It's your 5-star choice for automotive appearance. Dents, dings, hail damage, bumper, fenders, hoods, doors. They'll make them look like new, I'm telling you, man. They are incredible. Blue Note Roofing, hail damage, wind damage. You see the sign right here, 314-920-5713. Call David Novak today. He's the absolute best. David Novak with Blue Note Roofing, gutters, soffit, fascia, siding, roofing, whatever it is that you need. Call him today. Lordo's Diamonds. Get that special someone, something special in your life. Do it with Lordo's Diamonds. And all our great sponsors that we have here on Hockey Sense, including Travel House. Now, travelhouse.com, and that's Haus. Gail Alshey is the person you can contact there. You can talk to anybody. Haus, Travel House. If you're looking for ski vacations, spring breaks for next year, winter vacations for next year, you still want to get away, last-minute getaway vacation for this summer, you can do that by calling Gail or just by going to the website, travelhouse.com. All the information is there from Travel House. This is the best travel agency that I've ever dealt with, and I've dealt with a number of them. They've been around for over 30 years. They are the absolute best. Check out their website, travelhouse.com. All-inclusive vacations. They always have deals. Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Mexico, wherever you're looking to go. But if you want to stay inside the country, you can do that too. European vacations, ski vacations, spring break, like I said, anything, travelhouse.com. So check that out. All right, we appreciate Davis Payne for joining us on this edition of Hockey Sense. Aiden, everybody helping us out here at Half Coast Studios. Jason, I got to give Jason a big shout out from Black River Digital, who helps us get the show up onto YouTube and everything else. So our boy Jason making it happen, man. Who obviously does a lot of work for us, man. He's the absolute best. Jason MacArthur. Big shout out, Jace. Thanks for all your help. And thank you to Davis Payne for joining us. We'll have more each and every week, all summer long. We go all year long with Hockey Sense. Live from Half Coast Studios, I'm Andy Strickland. Reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice. We'll do it again next Friday. Have a great week, everybody.